Okay, let's just jump right into this explainer and completely dismantle that toxic go big or go home motivational myth. You know the one. We're going to explore the absolutely fascinating work of UCLA clinical psychologist Dr. Robert Maurer and his clinical application of the Kaizen Way. If you've ever felt completely paralyzed by some massive, ambitious goal you've set for yourself, well, you are definitely not alone. So, to figure out why we struggle so much with these huge goals, we have to look at why that initial rush of excitement, which feels great, right? Why it so quickly turns into this paralyzing fear of failure. We've all seen those hyper-energetic motivational speakers screaming that we need to take massive leaps to achieve greatness. But let's be real. When we actually try to take those massive leaps, that excitement fades incredibly fast. It's really fascinating because there's this stark contrast between what those self-help gurus are constantly preaching and the Kaizen method. The traditional approach relies on these big, bold, dramatic actions that almost inevitably lead straight to fear. Kaizen goes the complete opposite route. It asks us to take steps so incredibly small, literally effortless, that they feel kind of ridiculous. But there's actually a deeply ingrained biological reason why these embarrassingly small steps are the true secret to lasting change. Here's the deal. When a massive goal triggers stress, your amygdala, the brain's fear center, treats it exactly like a saber-toothed tiger is chasing you. It detects the anxiety of this huge undertaking and slams the fight or flight button. And once that alarm bell is ringing, your rational, long-term planning completely shuts down. We just instantly abandon all our grand plans because our brain is screaming for immediate comfort. We've all been there, right? This perfectly illustrates how our brain literally forces us into these comfort coping mechanisms just to relieve the anxiety of those giant leaps. Think about it. You drop out to start a bold new business, the reality hits you, and suddenly you are endlessly scrolling Facebook just to avoid the fear of your product being rejected. Or you set a goal to get ripped, the fear of looking out of place at the gym creeps in, and you end up curled up on the couch with a bowl of ice cream. That is your amygdala in action, actively protecting you from the perceived threat of a huge change. Moving on to the origins of Kaizen, let's see where this all actually started. Because before Dr. Maurer used this to outsmart the human brain clinically, this very concept was used to rebuild an entire nation. The history here is wild. Maurer hypothesized that if this embarrassingly small step method could transform post-war Japan into a literal manufacturing powerhouse, it could absolutely transform individual lives. Back in the late 40s, an American named Edward Deming started teaching this to Japanese factory workers. They fully embraced it, called it Kaizen, and fast forward a bit, companies like Lexus are dominating global quality awards. So, Maurer looks at this and thinks, hey, could this industrial philosophy actually work in modern clinical psychology? This was the core question Deming taught those factory workers. It proves that monumental success absolutely does not require monumental effort. He wasn't asking them to redesign the whole factory floor overnight. He just asked for one extremely small step every single day. Which brings us right back to Dr. Moore's patients. He'd ask them to do things like, I don't know, imagine their dream job for just 3 seconds, or march in place during a single 1-minute TV commercial, or take exactly one less sip of caffeine per day. And he discovered that by doing this, they were literally tiptoeing past the amygdala. Because the steps required zero real effort, his patients couldn't even formulate an excuse to skip them. They bypassed the fight or flight response entirely and just started building a rock-solid foundation of new habits. So now that we've got the biology and history down, let's get into strategy 1, smaller questions. This is the first of Maurer's 2 counterintuitive habit strategies. Instead of paralyzing himself with a massive, heavy goal, award-winning author Michael Ondaatje uses these small, playful questions to trick his mind into actually having fun with the creative process. If he asks, how do I write a masterpiece? The pressure is instantly crushing. But asking, hey, who is this guy in the plane and why did he crash? That's specific. It's low stakes. Your brain wants to solve that puzzle. It's the same thing with reading. If you want to read a heavy, life-improving book, please don't ask yourself how you're going to get through the whole thing. It feels like a chore, and you'll put it off until you magically have more time. Instead, take these sequential, bite-sized steps. Look for a fun chapter title. Find one cool story. Ask a question about it. Before you know it, you're reading the book, and your brain never sounded the alarm. So the takeaway here is, whenever you feel anxious, actually, scratch that. Anytime you're staring down a huge project and that familiar stress creeps up, just stop. Don't look at the whole mountain. Just shrink the question down to the absolute easiest, smallest next step you can take right in this moment.
All right, moving right along to strategy 2, smaller rewards. We're going to see how shifting the way we celebrate progress works, and the proof here is a truly incredible medical turnaround. 20. That is the exact number of swollen joints a businessman named Jack Saint had when he was hospitalized with severe rheumatoid arthritis. His condition was so incredibly bad that his doctors advised him to permanently avoid all exercise. Think about the sheer physical and mental mountains standing in that guy's way. But Jack was stubborn. He completely ignored the doctors, but he instinctively used the Kaizen approach to protect himself. Instead of stressing about some massive fitness goal, he started rewarding himself for embarrassingly tiny milestones. Just getting out of bed and standing up earned a sincere "attaboy, Jack." Walking down to the gym was rewarded with a nice chat with the staff. Doing just 2 minutes on the treadmill? More internal praise. He literally did not care about running a mile. He only cared about celebrating the tiny, immediate action right in front of him. And this is where it gets crazy. It brilliantly illustrates the power of Kaizen, because those tiny steps and those small rewards literally compounded over time until Jack won the Mr. World bodybuilding title for his age division. Let that sink in. From 20 swollen joints and doctor's orders to never exercise again, to a world bodybuilding title in his 70s. All because he tied tiny rewards to incredibly small steps. Whether you're bouncing back from severe arthritis or just trying to run a 5K, shifting your focus to frequent, tiny rewards creates this totally sustainable loop of motivation. If you only reward yourself when you cross the finish line of a marathon, miles 2 through 25 are going to be absolutely miserable. But if you get a tiny reward like getting to listen to your favorite song at the end of every single mile, you constantly refuel your motivation without overwhelming your system. So, tying this all together, the crucial point of this entire explainer is this. By deliberately shrinking your questions and your rewards, you completely bypass your own resistance to change. You tiptoe right past the fear center, you skip the procrastination phase, and you build an unstoppable foundation of new habits at a pace that will honestly probably blow your own mind. Before we wrap up, I want you to think about your biggest, scariest goal right now. Got it? Okay, forget the finish line. To bypass your amygdala and actually get moving, ask yourself, what is just one embarrassingly small thing you can do today? Find that tiny step, take it, and then ask yourself, what is truly stopping you from making that your new normal?